Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Let's think about your nightly routine for a second. For so many of us, the idea of turning off the lights, laying your head on the pillow, and just being enveloped in absolute pitch black, dead silence, well, it isn't peaceful at all, is it? Actually, it's something we completely dread. Today, we're unpacking this deeply relatable behavioral mystery. We're going to look into the psychology of people who literally cannot sleep in silence. We'll explore exactly what your brain is up to when the lights go out and why your specific bedtime habits, yeah, the ones you might think are kind of weird, actually make complete logical sense.
Let's test this out right now, okay? Imagine you're lying in bed. The lights are out, the TV is off, your phone is completely put away, and the room sounds exactly like this. Did you feel that? Just a couple of seconds of absolute quiet, and for a lot of you, I bet a sense of purposeful discomfort might have already started creeping in. Do you find it practically impossible to fall asleep in a completely silent room? Look, if the absence of noise makes you toss, turn, and just feel strangely on edge, you really need to know that you are absolutely not alone. In fact, your brain is doing exactly what it's wired to do when it's left unchecked in the quiet.
Because think about it, what happens when the room goes completely quiet? Suddenly, out of nowhere, your own thoughts become the absolute loudest thing in the room. You aren't just lying there resting. Your brain is aggressively replaying every single conversation from today. You're suddenly analyzing the exact tone your coworker used in a meeting. You're completely rethinking a text message you sent 3 hours ago. Oh, and you're definitely reliving that super awkward time you confidently said you too when the waiter told you to enjoy your meal, right? In the absence of external sound, your brain radically accelerates. It just pulls up this frantic, hyper-analyzed highlight reel of the day's events. The silence doesn't bring you peace. No way. It brings a chaotic, overwhelming rush of internal noise.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because what you're experiencing right there actually has a real name. It's what psychologists call the mental spiral, and it's basically defined as the intense overthinking that occurs when the mind is left in absolute silence. You see, when you remove all sensory input from your physical environment, your active mind doesn't just, automatically shut off. It desperately looks for something, really anything to process. And without any external sound to listen to, well, your mind turns completely inward. The absolute silence acts like a giant vacuum, and your brain just rushes to fill that empty space with a mental spiral of intense, non-stop overthinking. So it's basically an active nightly battle going on right there in your bedroom. On one hand, you've got the completely silent room. As we just established, the silence is the direct trigger, right? It's the ultimate catalyst for that mental spiral. But to combat it, we introduce background noise, which actively works to quiet that spiral down. And I really want to validate this for you right now. If you feel like you absolutely need background noise to fall asleep, it is not just some weird quirk you have. Not at all. It's a highly effective, totally logical coping mechanism. You are actively utilizing background noise to protect yourself against the silent room and all that overwhelming overthinking that inevitably comes with it. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that psychological research points to a fascinating concept here: the mind's absolute hate for unfinished answers. Think about why you're replaying those daily conversations. Your brain is desperately trying to solve emotional puzzles that simply don't have clear solutions. The human mind absolutely despises ambiguity. I mean, if someone gave you a weird look at the grocery store, your brain wants to know exactly why, and it will search for the answer until it finds one. So in the total quiet of the night, your mind works overtime trying to force a clean, neat resolution to every single ambiguous interaction you had that day. Your nighttime mental spiral is essentially your brain stubbornly refusing to leave a psychological tab open.
Let's move into how this builds into our resolution. Because honestly, human beings instinctively know how to fight back against this anxiety. We use very specific auditory tools to combat the spiral, things like white noise machines, or maybe a familiar podcast. We so often think of these as just media or simple background ambiance, right? But in the context of sleep psychology, these are literal functional psychological tools. By giving your brain a steady stream of external sound, you're effectively drowning out its desperate search for those unfinished answers. You're actively overriding the internal chaos by feeding your brain a consistent external signal.
So the crucial point is this. It all really comes down to a sense of stability. When you turn on that white noise machine or when you press play on a familiar podcast, you're giving your brain the exact anchor it needs.
Absolute silence is completely chaotic to an active mind because it forces the mind to generate its own input, which leads straight down into that mental spiral we talked about. But consistent external background noise, that provides a predictable auditory baseline. It gives your racing thoughts a steady, safe rhythm to latch onto. It provides the very sense of stability your brain fundamentally craves, which finally, thankfully, allows you to wind down.
Which brings us to a final, deeply personal question to leave you with as we wrap up this explainer. Just look at how you actively manage your own mind every single night. Now that you understand this psychological battle between the mental spiral and your brain's deep need for auditory grounding, ask yourself, what noise gives your mind stability tonight? Is it the drone of a fan, the hum of white noise, maybe the familiar voices of a podcast? By recognizing these sounds not as sleep crutches, but as vital, logical tools for your psychological well-being, you can finally reclaim your rest. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this, and sleep well.